Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. And I know it's been a little bit, but it's been a very exciting weekend for One Piece. The game came out Friday. It was awesome. I've been playing a ton of this game, and it's just a lot of fun to play with a new set as opposed to limited battles. It feels weird, I'm not confident in my deck lists. Uh, my deck just feels like it sucks. It feels like it's broken. It feels like there's just so much going on. Even if you're aware of all the cards, it's just so interesting. Um, so I tried my best. I didn't have any like pre-ordered product or anything like that. So I tried my best over the weekend to get the cards that I wanted. And as obvious by the card that's right in front of me, I am fiending for the Straw Hats, as a lot of people were. They have that main character energy. They're very, very cool. And I think they just consistently in a game called One Piece might still just be viable cards. So with that being said, we had our first store tournament on Saturday, and I was able to take first. It was a best of one tournament. It was 5 rounds, over 20 players. I think close to 30, and I just was able to go undefeated. I played against almost everything. Played round one into purple, round two into I did into red, round three into green, round four into purple, and I'm sorry, round four into blue, and round five into red once again. There was a lot of aggressive players there, so some of the choices I made really benefited me. But moving forward, there's a lot of changes I would like to make to the deck. With that being said, guys, I'd like to show you the deck profile that I was able to pilot to go undefeated in our first store tournament at PBG with close to 30 players. So let's start off with the leader, Zoro. Why did I choose Zoro over Luffy? Mostly because I've played a lot of Luffy. To be completely honest with you guys, Zoro is a fantastic leader. Not only now, but in the future, if you're keeping up with what's going on in the East, he's very, very, very good. The ability of making your weenies being able to attack gives it a very aggressive play style, and it just offered a little bit more than Luffy, or just a different game plan than Luffy would in the first place. Luffy can play tall characters, Shanks, 6-drop Luffy, and things of that nature, but Zoro can't afford to. They don't have the ability to make these characters get the bonus value, the juice that they need to get through to make the big, big plays. As your Dawn management is kind of weird in this deck because there's always like one Dawn stuck on this guy, and then all of your characters have like when attacking effects, and they kind of like want the Dawn. And your one drops, even though they are just weenies, they can turn around sideways. If you make a one drop of 5k, 5k is still a threat and it still triggers interaction from the opponent. So if you can just get to the 5k threshold, it feels like your Dawn is really just, it's tight. There's not much that your turn isn't using so much Dawn. You're not playing like 16 cards in a turn. You're playing more like 2 or 3, moving your Dawn around as efficiently as possible and squeezing the juice out of your deck in that manner. So with that being said, I wanted to play Zoro. If I'm being completely honest and you want to do a little bit better, I feel like Monkey D. Luffy gives you a little bit more reach and gives you a little bit more versatility in this format. In the future, I think Zoro will be even better, and this card is why I wanted to pick it up. I think it has viability for future sets as they continue to release more and more aggressive red cards. This card will only just benefit and gain more and more value. And honestly, if you get to play with an Altar, that's just broken. Like, look at this guy. This is insane. I was so happy to be able to pick him up. So I'll move him towards this here. We'll keep Zoro here as he helps us with this little deck profile. So let's start off with the one drops, the weenies, if you will. The number one weenie in our deck that I would like to share with you is Chopper. I'm playing 4 Choppers because one drop blocker is insane. They're still insane. They were insane in the first set. They're insane now. They're insane in limited battles. They're just really, really good. The fact that you can block even if this is DP reduced to 0 is just a very powerful opportunity. Oftentimes, just because it's a one drop, you can feel, again, even if your Dawn is very tight, you don't mind waiting until the perfect turn to just slam this down. When your opponent's trying to push really heavily on you and you go for like an aggressive play and you turn all your dudes sideways, so they want to go ahead and clear them, you're like, okay, finish the turn with 2 choppers. You don't just kind of run this out on one. In some matchups, once again, it just does not matter if you run out on one or you run it out late. I just feel very comfortable holding this in hand, and it kind of just scares your opponent. They think this is combo power because red, funnily enough, has gained an insane amount of combo power. Your whole deck is combo heavy, and that's something I'm going to be talking about towards later on in the video. But either way, Chopper, you can hold him and as a bluff in hand, and he's good on the board. He is recurable by Yuta. Oof. So good. I love Chopper. Amazing, amazing card. And then we'll talk about our one of Nami. Again, my list is not perfected. I do love this card. This card helps this deck insanely because that issue that I'm having, that I'm getting stuck with Dawn, I just can't double dip like the other Luffy does. This card allows me to get a little bit more double dip action, and I really, really wish I could play more of her. The fact is that she is too weenie in this deck. 1k is very, very difficult for this ever to turn sideways. This requires 3 bonus Dawns. Maybe if you use her effect on herself, then you're using 2, but it's just like, why would we do that? So I did try her at 1, really liked her. At the end of the day, she still has a 1k counter. She is searchable because she's a Straw Hat. But unfortunately, because I think she has the text Nami, your searcher Nami cannot search her. But if you were playing Meet Me at the 2 years at event card, I don't remember. If you're playing the event card searcher, you can still add this. So maybe there is something to be found there. So I play 1 of her, and I play 4 of the broken Nami. Shout out to my boy who was able to help me out and get me one of these Namis. She's absolutely stunning, and definitely the price tag is going to make this card very difficult for me to acquire the rest of them. But amazing searcher. Like, this card is unbelievable. For those that don't know, this card is eroded on their website. It can search event cards as well that have the Straw Hat tag on them. So this card being able to add me jet pistols, being able to add me guard points, and things like that was amazing all day. The fact that I could set up, like, if my hand is very, very strong, if I already have the Zoros, I have the Nico Robins, I have all the gas in my hand, then I just want something to, like, really help me push through sometimes. And that was very easy to do. If I can add a Brook, I can add, combo power, I can add spells, and she really facilitated all of that. Even if she goes to trash, like, again, I didn't mind ever swinging with her because she's an easy to remove card. Your opponent's like, oh, it's a 2k, I'll swing at it with whatever and it'll die. I'm not upset about that because then I can follow it up with a Yuta. Yuta will add this back, and then I can continue to push through in my deck. And Yuta's really good because she's a 4k that turns into a 5k, very, very threatening card. So Nami, overall, amazing. Felt really good to play this card. Every game that I opened her on 1, oh yeah, we're gaming. And then we have 4 of Otama. Otama's bizarre. Besides being a 2k counter and a 0, my god, this card turned sideways a couple times during the tournament, just because, again, you have just so much Dawn, you have so many cards on the board, you don't really want to just start flooding the board. You want to keep cards in hand for combo power, keep it as bait, and just kind of use the Dawn that you have on the board in an aggressive manner. But I just love the interaction between Otama and Nico Robin. It just felt good all day. Your 5k blockers, which is what people are usually playing, you're just like Otama, Nico Robin, pop. Like, Nico swing 6 at face, pop your blocker. It's just so disgusting. This card also allowed a lot of my characters to just get over the big boys. Once they made their big investment turns, their 7 drops, their kids, their anything like in that manner, you're just allows you to just minus 2k jet pistol for 5 Dawn, and I remove their humongous threat. And if they played too much money, too much mana, or Dawn to get that value from that big character, and you just delete it for 5, they lose so much tempo. And that's all that you want with red. You want an efficient set of turns that you're really pushing the aggression and just getting that damage in as much as physically possible. So then moving on to our 2 drops. I played 2 of Vivi. I think Vivi is an amazing card. It's just mostly, unfortunately, we don't have at this current time a Straw Hat crew with the 1k counter to 4 stat line, because if we did, we would just play that. So people are opting to play this or Psy. They're just vanilla 4Ks that are 2 drops with 1k counter. The reason you play them is because with 1 Dawn on Zoro, this becomes a 6 and this is a 5. So this 2 drop now becomes a threat every single turn because you're almost always tying that Dawn to Zoro just to get his value across the board. At the end of the day, she is still combo power, and she's just a 5k for 2, which is really, really nice. I only played 2 of it. I was playing it at 4, but it just felt like it wasn't as impactful. And I just started switching some cards around at the last minute. That's why you're going to see some really bizarre ratios, because more than anything, I was testing out cards and trying to see what I did and did not like. So moving on, we got our Luffy. I did play 2 of this card. This card felt awesome. I barely ever saw him in the tournament, but the games that I saw him, this card juices value, because as you're playing your turns, he puts himself all the way up to 6k for free, and that becomes a real threat. All these 2ks floating around, this guy always says, give me your 2k, give me your 2k. And if your leader's always saying give me your 2k, eventually they just won't have it. A lot of people are opting not to play a ton of spells, so even if I can, 6k can almost always trigger a 4k counter, and it's just like woof. And this does it all by itself. And following up, that little effect that this cannot be deleted by strike characters sometimes comes up. There's a bunch of weird characters that are just strike, and then people just don't notice that. But this does affect characters, not leaders. So even if your leader is a strike leader, don't forget you can just still punch over this card. But again, you have choppers, you have a lot of defense, and felt fantastic. I play 1 of Sanji. He's just efficient in terms he's a 4 hitting you for 7. That's just a lot of damage. Some people don't expect that damage to come in. He's a 2-drop, so I can again play him early, and the 4k matters because he becomes a 5k with 1 Dawn spent. On the Zoro, you don't always have to juice his effect for rush. Sometimes you just want a 2-drop to play, and again, as the deck wants to go first, you really want to make your 1-3-5 good, but I also wanted to beef up my 2s because just in case I am forced to go second, which I went second a ton, I lost the die roll back and forth all day, you want to make sure you're not whiffing on plays. So I did have the Sanji, and then now for a bunch of 2-cost counters because there are just so many in this deck. I did play 3 Usopps. Sorry, just kidding. I played 2 Usopps. It felt kind of good. I rarely played this card. I only played it versus very heavy decks, aka versus Purple. Versus Purple, I felt okay playing this card down because after I've already pushed them to drop a lot of their pressure, they would always keep like 1 or 2 Dawn up, and I'm like, cool, nice Dawn. I'm gonna play this Usopp, put 1 Dawn on it, and it's like, go play that Blast Breath, I'm gonna draw another card. Go play that Thunder Bagua, and it just continues to push pressure. It gives your opponent like fear of playing the cards. The thing is, they have to play the cards or they're going to lose, so they're just giving you free draw. But again, you're giving draw up for a 2k counter. Is that worth it? It depends. This card also becomes an attacker because with a 3k stat line, again, 1 here, 1 here, this is now a 5. And you're also 8 of cards. Is it good to play him? I'm not sure. But I did play him in some game states and he didn't feel terrible. At the end of the day, he is your 2k counter with the Straw Hat tag. So he just felt really, really good. Then I was playing 3 Sanjis. I was able to pull this, so very, very cool. Sanji felt really nice. Sanji felt like an aggressive and a defensive card at the same time. Some game states, I would just, if in early game state when I'm playing as a slower deck, I just kind of slammed this card down, and this card just threatened 8k damage whenever I wanted it. He didn't have to turn sideways, but if I ever wanted to get an 8k in, he just allowed me to do that. He also makes me take a card from life, which in some board states, they're not swinging at my life, they're trying to get board control, and this card just says draw a card in those states. You can't use that effect too often, especially versus the red matchup. This becomes a 2k counter in hand, but versus slower decks, this card says double draw, which is really, really nice. And it's a very bizarre thing. It's very much, if you've seen what Whitebeard does, it felt much more similar to using Whitebeard's effect, getting a card to hand and swinging for 8k. That's a lot of damage. So really enjoyed Sanji. Again, those still testing out ratios. It's weird to have like a 2 and a 3. And then we're going to show you the 4 of 2k that I played, which was the OG Brook. I felt like, again, this card would get me the most juice out of all the cards, because even though I can put him down for 2, he's a 2k counter that is searchable with a 3k stat line that can then push my board further. So I thought that this card would give me the most value, and I was right. I didn't see this card as much as I saw the others for whatever reason. But in terms of an aggressive game plan, this card really gets the job done as opposed to the other two. It really pushes your Dawn effectively if you're summoning one of your 2k counters. Now let's talk about the better cards in this deck. The actually best cards in this deck, if we're going to say anything. Let's talk about our 3-drops. What red is known for. So we got 4 of Nico Robin. This card is insane. This card, if I like playing this on curve, going Nami into Nico Robin is so unbelievably good. My goodness. So you have this card on the board. It's swinging at you for 6 almost always because of its effect and Zoro's effect. It's deleting the weenie blockers. It's comboed with Otama round table with double Otama. It deletes almost anything. This card begs pressure. In the mirror, whoever goes first is at an amazing advantage because you go 1 into Nami, 3 into Nico Robin, and it's just like, if you do not have the out in terms of Jet Pistol, oh boy, you're in for a world of hurt. And let me tell you, this card is an absolute champion at board controlling, putting and applying pressure at the same time, because you're swinging usually face, or you're swinging at a character and killing 2 characters at the same time. You're going 1 for 2 or 1 life for 1 character as well, and then you can defend it with your hand because of all of your 2Ks and your blockers. Insane card, absolutely bananas. I was searching for this card as much as I could. Into Law, I didn't play against any Laws, but into Law, this card is like unbelievably good. This card is the MVP of the matchup, so definitely one of the best 3-drops in the game in my opinion. And then here is the best 3-drop, Zoro's. This card is, holy moly, I'm already feeling a lot of complaints on this card. 3-drop 5k with rush. If you put 1 on the Zoro, this card just comes in sideways at 6k every single time. I see people looping it with the Utah, and you're just getting looped for game over and over and over. It's like 6k, 6k, 9k, and it's just like, oh my god. Like this, there are turns with this deck where you're hitting people with literally 6 attacks at above 6k, and you're just like, even if that doesn't sound impressive to you, that is an insane amount of damage and pressure that you have to deal with, and oftentimes people just do not have it. And that's the most important thing that people have to start focusing on this game, is trying to calculate what your opponent can have, trying to see what they could have in hand, and playing into that as best as you can with your Dawn. And Zoro just allows you to do that very easily. Very defensible too, because at a 5k stat line, you just almost can't beat it. It's so easy to defend, and it just gets in there every single turn. Amazing, amazing card. And then for our weird 4-drops and the top end of the deck, which is not much, I tried to make the deck as low to the ground as possible. We have a 1 of Brook. I'll explain we only play 1 of him is because I would play 2 Laws instead. The fact that we get the film decks is fantastic, but we just do not get them in a manner that I could acquire both of them. As I play more tournaments for the One Piece card game, I will be acquiring more of the film cards, and will eventually make the changes to my deck necessary because of those cards that are facilitated. But Law is amazing. Even though Brook does get a double dip on the 2k, it requires one attacking and feels really slow. The fact that I can on-play this as a second Otama that has a 6k body, holy crap. The only thing that Law doesn't have that the other cards do is that it doesn't have the Straw Hat tag, so it's not searchable. But this card was amazing. Every time I dropped it, which was very, very rare, it very much helped me win that game. Law is unbelievably unbalanced. What Brook has going for it is the fact that it is a Straw Hat character, but it is a when attacking effect, which was a little too difficult for me to value. Then we have 2 of the Utas, or Uta. Amazing card. We have a Gecko Moria on red. Fantastic. I love Gecko Moria. It's a little bit worse because it's not a Straw Hat. It doesn't have the 1k counter. Look at what they need to match a fraction of my power. No, it's not Gecko Moria, but it's very good. It is a 5k body always, so it is a threatening stat line. It recycles your Zoros, recycles your Choppers. I think 3 is too much. This card is not a 4 of. I did try it at 4 for like a couple games, and I just ended up breaking too much on it, but you definitely want to play it at a 2 or 3 line. I tried 3, but I might drop this down to 2 just to give more space. And obviously, as I make changes with the deck, there will be a lot of variances that comes in. But there's just so much room for improvement that it's crazy. It is the first week after all. And then for our last card, I did play 3 of the Rush Luffy Unblockables. I didn't want to play this at 4 because, once again, I want my deck to be as low to the ground as possible. You only ever need like 1 of this to ever come in at the end of the game. But to be fair, a 5-drop rushing for 7 is kind of crazy. Well, it won't rush for 7 on 5. It'll rush for 7 every other turn, but it is a big threat nonetheless. 7 is a big number in this game, and it becomes a very easy card to defend because of its 6k stat line. So I might switch this up to 4, but for right now, I did try 3, and I wasn't really upset with it. It is searchable by Nami. If I ever wanted it, he was there, to be honest. And then off to our spells. The best control option in the game right now that we have, thank you to Red, is Jet Pistol. So Jet Pistol in combination with Law, in combination with Otama, lets you really get in there for the big cards. It lets you get the 8k deletions. I have seen my Otama unironically punch over Kaidos because of other cards like Round Table. There's just so much DP reduction or attack reduction and deletion in this deck that you really want to facilitate those game plans. Jet Pistol allows me to keep a lot of board control and efficiency. People start trying to hide behind blockers, and I'm like, hell no. Goodbye with Pistol. And it really put it in pressure. The reason I went with 4 instead of 3, a lot of people opt to play 3 or 2s because you really don't need it. Again, it's searchable, is because I want to sack you with it in security or in life. I wanted to at least have 1 in life. So to maximize my odds in doing that, I played 4, and it benefited me. That is a questionable idea, but it's definitely one that I take back from my Digimon days. Put as much security options as I can just so that I have the higher chance of high rolling you. Especially in a best of 1 format, we need a bit of high roll. So I felt like playing 4 Pistol was the correct call, and I don't think I would bump this down. I do just like it at 4. Seeing this card over and over and over again just gives me so much value. Round Table. Wow. This card was so good all day. This card allowed my actual Otama to kill a Kaido. Like, Otama, unironically, 1k swing at negative 1k, and it just punched the 9-drop Kaido, and it just killed it. Otama killed Kid. Otama just was killing whatever the heck she wanted yesterday. It was unbelievable. Round Table facilitated that, and I really do like this card. It's almost a 1-for-1, and this really just allows more board control for this deck. If you have Nico Robin on the board with a Round Table in hand, whoa. Any card in the game just goes bye-bye, and she's also applying pressure. So I really enjoyed Round Table all day. The unfortunate part of this card is it is not a Straw Hat Crew, so this deck can't search it. But if you're playing Law, this is searchable by Bonnie. Oh god, Law is such a good deck. And although I didn't see much of it. And then in terms of my last two cards, I played two separate counters. I played a one of Guard Point and one of the Red Hawk. Red Hawk is a little weird because 4K, if people are playing around Red Hawk, it's really hard to ever get the juice out of it. Remember, this does delete a 4K DP character, so if you just put your Dawn before attacking and you make your characters 5Ks, this will never kill anything. And you're investing 2 for 4, which is that's the correct ratio that we've gotten in this game, but you don't get the bonus effect. So it's just like, I don't know if this is good enough. There are other options such as Radical Beam and Guard Point, which I think is really the way to go, as those cards are just more often than not easy to play around. But it is the first week, so I was thinking I can maybe get a couple people off guard with this card, keep a couple Dawn up, and then make them afraid of the Red Hawk if you were really thinking about it. But I just didn't think this card will ever come into value. It very rarely gets the juice that I want, and it mostly just kills the 1K blockers, right? Which is, again, not terrible, but at the same time, it's just bizarre. There was never a point where I felt like this card was just better than Guard Point. I can keep up 2 Dawn and I can threaten 2 Guard Points, or I can go ahead and keep 2 Dawn and threaten 1 Red Hawk. And the reason I went so low on the spells is because a deck that wants to hit you with a bunch of characters, wants to amass a board, the 2K counters are just unironically better because they can double dip as threats as well as combo power. So even though these cards are probably more cost efficient than the 2K counters, the 2K counters are threats at the end of the day. So that was my deck list. I hope I gave a great enough explanation for you guys to understand the decisions that I made in my Zoro deck. There's a ton of changes I would make, but I just welcome you guys to look at the deck, look at the cards, try your own spin, personalize it, and make the best deck that you can. We have a ton of time before any big tournaments come out, so just get your practice in, have some fun, and enjoy playing One Piece. It is a fantastic card game. With that being said, guys, I know that I've been putting a lot of deck profiles out, but I'm trying to figure out how to do actual games, so I'm hoping to get actual game content in with commentary soon from locals, from play testing and things like that, and we can really go over what the thought process is. Hopefully through those games we'll be able to analyze what are the correct deck choices, because that's what my opponents said often throughout the day. They were like, man, I didn't lose, it felt like I didn't lose because of the choices that I made in the game. If I felt like I lost because of the options that I was given by my deck, which means that I made poor deck choices. So as we learn and refine our decks together, we will get closer and closer to the One Piece. I don't know, that was a weird little cringy sentence, but I'll see you guys later, and hopefully you like this video. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, follow. I might be doing some more Twitch content, so thank you guys for supporting. Appreciate you. Love ya. Peace.